Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So you bought Talking Teal for $3 all to yourself.
Yes. Bitch.
I love it.
Well, I mean, if your emails are any indication, you have a lot to say.
I do.
It was probably wise of you to not short thrift yourself. So
Short
thrift. What is
Short shrift.
Short shrift. Okay.
She's a foreigner.
I'm a foreigner. Every now and then I like to remind people of that by bastardizing a word. Hi. Thank you so much, first of all, for your support. Always, because you've been with us for a while, and thank you for contributing to the Indiegogo and for subscribing and your emails. I mean, it wouldn't be a Talking Teal without your emails.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you read it all. And I do go on. I'm a bit of an analytical freak, I guess, but I enjoy it.
It's all good quality, though.
Well, hopefully.
And you threatened me at some point this season that you were so angry with the show that you weren't going to, write those long emails, but you couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't help it. They just kept giving me more to write about.
So what would you like to talk about?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think to start off, I must confess that I just finished watching all 5 seasons.
Oh, my God. How long did it take you to do 5 seasons?
Did you lose a bet?
No. No, I was doing that. After every season, I had to put it all together. So, and I didn't do it last season because I was so upset and so angry that I just needed to put it to bed and move on just to recoup. And so I realized I hadn't binge watched season 4 and added it to 1 through 3, which I've watched 1 through 3 a million times. But I don't even think I watched 4 before 5 started to sort of get into the time frame and the mindset. So I was still sort of agitated and upset by 4 going into 5, and that probably fueled.
You feel you didn't process it all the way.
Yeah, exactly. So this time I'm like, no, I need to process this and put it to bed properly. Plus I knew I was going to do this, and I didn't want to I don't like keeping angst going. I need to sort it all out, focus on the positive elements, the things I love about the show, and then move on. And I'm good for the year until next season. So I did. I went back this past week and a half, I guess it took me, to get through all 5 seasons.
Wow.
And one of the things that dawned on me was how I watch each season has affected, in a way, how I view the season thereafter. And looking back, I realized the first time I watched seasons 1 and 2, I binge watched both back to back. And so they're sort of indelibly linked to each other, seasons 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so brilliantly written, so tight, so simple yet complicated and complex at the same time. The characters were so vivid and so there. There was nothing superfluous. There was no extra. It was just boom, 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 boom.
It's true.
And I remember vividly getting to the end of the finale of season 2, that first time through, shaking. I was literally shaking from head to toe. I was so overwhelmed and so full of every single emotion that I was like, this is the most brilliant show I've ever seen,
Yeah.
I have to watch those again. I'd like to go back.
But it sounds extremely familiar. That's how we felt.
Yeah. And then season 3 was unique because I didn't watch it, for another year. And I think I even waited after it had been posted before I watched it. And I waited just a tad too long and got a spoiler.
What was a spoiler?
The it was a doozy. It was Frankie's release.
Oh, that is a big
spoiler.
one.
Huge spoiler, right? So
Huge.
I had no idea who Bridget was. I was like, what do you mean Frankie's leaving? What? And I hadn't watched any of it yet. So I had no idea what the story was, no idea who Bridget was, but I had this carrot hanging for the whole season when I finally sat down and watched it. And thankfully it was a good spoiler. It wasn't, a bad thing.
B dies, for example.
Exactly. I don't know if I would have watched the season had I known, that one. But for this, I like to go through the emotional journey that first time, pure. Obviously Frankie is my favorite character, so I would have liked to have gone through that angst and that fear.
Oh yeah, we were worried that she was going to die.
Yeah, we just
all throughout the whole season.
Exactly. So I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that feeling, But what it gave me was this sense of utter enjoyment. Like, I loved every minute of that season.
Yeah.
And so it just has this, big heart around it for me.
For us too, it was our favorite season. That's what made us start doing this.
It's my favorite season. But I think because I knew at least that had a happy ending, I just sat back and relished it.
Yeah.
So fully. I wasn't all angsty like I was in particularly season 2.
You didn't have
with
Ross.
Ferguson, where, there were scenes where I was holding my breath in season 2. I'm like, oh my God, what is she going to do? I don't know. I'm so excited. I'm so scared. I didn't have that in season 3. So, yeah, that was very special. And then seasons 4 and 5, I watched them one episode a week. Mm-hmm. I didn't binge watch. So for me, an analytical-minded person who obsesses, it was horrible.
Gave you way too much time.
Way too much time to think about every detail.
What season is this?
4 and 5.
Both
4 and 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, while we were doing Talking Teal. It was, oh my gosh, it just sent me in all the wrong places, and, it was a horrible experience. So watching season 4 especially, in total, as a one through story, one complete story, was so refreshing because I hadn't done that yet. Mm-hmm. So I found out this week I love that season.
Really?
It's really great season.
Season 4 or season 5?
Season 4. If you take all the Ferguson lurking out.
But even that, when you watch it incomplete, it's just bits and pieces. There's so much they packed into that season.
There was still a lot. It's
actually not overwhelming when you watch everything in total, back to back.
But that's not the way you're meant to watch.
Yes.
So you have to take into consideration that if you watch it episode by episode, it has a different effect.
Anyway, season 4 was still better than season 5 because there was still Bally, there was still Bridget,
exactly.
There was still so much going on, introducing Kaz and going through her backstory. Mm-hmm. There was a lot that was going on.
Season 4 was still a really good season.
It was a solid season.
But
it's
how
not
was
my favorite.
What was it like watching season 5 as a binge watch?
Help.
No, it didn't, right?
I admit, it didn't help.
Yeah.
What it allowed me to do, though, was not focus on the details. If you focus on the details, you start spinning again in your head. Okay, this is wrong, this is missing, what about this? And you start asking the questions that we all asked for 12 weeks, right? But if you just watch it straight through, it's like, okay, that's gone, so I'm moving on to the next thing, and it keeps you from dwelling.
But you still miss the heart, the relationships,
yes, which there were almost none of.
Yeah.
There was actually more than I thought.
Really?
I felt in watching it in one fell swoop, there was more character and relationship than I had felt the first time watching it week by week. So that I'm now focusing on. It's like, okay, there was some really good stuff in there in terms of character and relationship. I mean, and we all mentioned it along the way, like our love of, Boomer and Sonia was extraordinary, and that just shines through. And the journey of Will and Kaz, beautiful, beautiful art. So if you go through and you just watch the characters, you just watch the actors doing their thing and relating to one another, and stop focusing on the story holes and the stuff that's missing, it's not a bad season. It's just not up to the standards of the first four.
Right.
Too much Joan. It'll always be too much Joan for me.
And Joan was very different this season from the other three. And I noted the progress, and because her first season 2, we didn't know her. We knew the reputation of the old character, so we knew what we were expecting. But she actually had more colors. She was
fascinating. We loved her.
She had far more colors.
Yeah, she was very friendly. She was very charming. And she was a different person for each character that she related to. It was brilliant.
I agree. We loved her.
We loved her. I loved her.
And we said it all the time.
Yeah. And then season 3, you started to see it a little bit at the end of season 2, because B and Fletch were tuning in to the psychosis, but then season 3 totally revealed it.
And she was still interesting, though.
She was fascinating.
She was still fascinating
because she was still somewhat in control.
She was still not a one-sided lunatic.
Yes.
She hadn't revealed her true self. And she hadn't gotten maybe as crazy. Maybe all this stuff made her crazier.
Could be. And I really think there was the moment between Bridget and her, for their first scene together in the hall. And Bridget says, I know the signs of people, being in control when they're not.
Even when they look like they have
their shit together. Even when they look like they have their shit together.
Yes. And after that, there's these moments where Ferguson starts reflecting on herself. And she even asks her father, is there something wrong with me?
Right.
Because Bridget, again, several more times pointed out, like the empathy thing. They had another conversation about Frankie's empathy.
Right.
The lack of empathy makes you psychotic. And again, it triggered something in Ferguson. It's like she hadn't even thought this was her until Bridget pointed it out. And so that progression started to break and crack her to, throughout the season until, she lost it at the end. So then season 4 was about her not being in control and trying to manage being a prisoner.
Which she never should have been in their prison.
No, never. But putting that fantasy aside, it was interesting for me to watch it in completeness of how, again, it was almost like she went back to season 2 mode in a new position, being a different person for different people. How do I manipulate this situation, this person, to get what I need from them? But we, this time, knew exactly what she was doing. We saw her act the whole time. And so I think for that reason, it started to get old by the end of it.
For that reason, and sorry if I may, not only did we know who she was by then, everybody else knew. So they should have reacted the same way that we did. They should have said, we're tired of your bullshit, get out of here.
Yeah, and the other thing I resented was that she was the center of the universe.
Yeah, it's true.
But also, even though, yes, she did lose control, though she still managed to manipulate Channing and manipulate the psychiatrist who gave her the evaluation, and all, she still managed to manipulate everybody. But even though she lost control, to me, from a writer's perspective, I would have still wanted her to be a more interesting character, not just to kind of flatten her out to this one-dimensional character who has the same, she says everything the same way, she has the same expression on her face all the time, and she's just like this very old-fashioned villain type. Yeah. But I would have still...
All we missed was the twirling of the mustache.
You know, those moments, like we said, even you, I remember in your email, you pointed it out, when she had with Doreen, before Doreen was released, and she said, I thought we had a bond. That moment was the Joan I loved.
Glorious.
But we didn't have nearly as many as we should have.
It was just a horror show.
Yeah, but really, that went into play for me big time in season 5. In season 4, we still had some coloring. We still had, at least at the beginning, while Kaz was still in the dark, and she was playing the people who didn't know her.
Right.
We could see her, doing her old manipulative thing and being a victim or being sweet or being kind, and yet she was getting different reactions. I remember the Kaz episode where we got her backstory. She was thinking about her father the whole time, and she was like shutting Ferguson out. Remember, she kept ignoring her, and it was infuriating Ferguson. Yeah. It's like, okay, things are going to change because, she's not getting away with it like she thinks she is. So there were episodes like that and reactions like that where you're like, okay, she's not getting away with everything in season 4. She didn't get away with everything.
No. By the way, that the whole story with Kaz and her father...
I felt that for this...
Sorry, we get a little bit...
No, go ahead.
There was a glitch. That story with Kaz and her father, when Joan was trying to get herself in and Kaz kept pushing her aside, I thought this would have been a perfect opportunity to tell us a little bit about what the deal was with Joan's father, because we know how much he meant to her, but then we find out that it was all a hallucination. He wasn't really there. And then there was that little bit that she told the psychiatrist, and so
but who knows what she was telling the psychiatrist? Because she was manipulating him.
Which is why I wanted to objectively find out a little bit more about what her relationship with him really was like. Was this wonderful father a complete figment of her imagination? Or was he abusive, or was he the kind of, because we thought when we did see her with him and still thought he was real, we thought, okay, so this is how she learned, even though she had all these deficiencies, this is how she learned to deal with the world, because he taught
her how.
But then was he real?
Well, he was at one point, yes.
No, but was he really like this? Or did she imagine him like this because he was really an abusive father and she completely blocked that out and made him up in her mind?
I think that he was that way.
We don't know.
I think that's how she learned, but he died,
We don't know.
And left her alone.
Yeah. No, but I thought
but we should know.
Yeah.
It would be good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when they stopped editing.
Even if they do flashback, you're still assuming it's through her eyes.
They don't even need to do flashbacks. They don't even need to do flashbacks. I think that they've managed in the first 2 seasons. I mean, listen, even with Gianna, they did a little bit of flashback. That was plenty. That's all we needed to know. And then through her interactions with other people, we managed to piece it all together. So actually, Wentworth is extremely good at doing those things. They don't do, insane, like the whole thing of flashback and give you all on a silver platter here. Yeah. No, you need to do the work.
Yes, they're really good at it. They dole it out. And then you have to put 2 and 2 together and remember, oh, yes, this. You have to be present.
Well, even with the Kaz story and her father, if you watch those flashbacks, you don't see him abuse her.
No.
It's, you jump from there being best buddies and he's her prince to her mother saying, she's a liar, don't leave. And then he says, you're a liar, and she's like, no, and he kills the horse.
Right.
I mean, that's the most abusive thing we actually see on screen. But you feel it from, particularly
from the beginning,
performance, what the truth was.
Right from the beginning.
And that was all we needed.
Even though it was completely contrasted with the way they shot it, it was golden and nostalgic, so... They obviously are very good, and Wentworth viewers are sophisticated enough to figure it out. But that is what was really lacking in season 5. There wasn't all of that. It was I felt very simplistic. I mean, they thought it was being really complicated, being very complex with the way that they plotted out and twists and turns, but it was very simplistic. It all came down to the story, the plot, and where they were trying to get to. There was no that extra stuff.
Yes, we didn't take any side journeys. It was just dead ahead, and it was all one color.
Yeah.
And there was no subtlety.
No.
It was all in your face. It was all over the top, a lot of it. Particularly Joan was so over the top.
Over the top.
And it was beating us over the head with this stuff. And it's like, we know these characters better than you obviously think we do.
Right.
You don't need to bash our heads with this. And I missed the subtlety. I missed the nuance. That's what I missed from the relationship.
I think nuance is
nuance.
A very, very good word to use for something that was sorely lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I do, and I literally just finished watching the finale again.
The finale was a horse of another color, wasn't it?
And it was, again, I felt this exact same way. It was like, oh, those are the characters I know.
Yeah.
These are the relationships I love. And the other thing that came across for me watching all 5 seasons was, and we talked about this in Talking Teal as well over the course of the season, was the family unit.
Right.
And how in the past couple of seasons, we've sort of nostalgically glorified it. With watching seasons 1 and 3 again, it's like, they were horrible to each other. Time and time and time again. They screwed each other over. They used each other.
Prison.
They hurt each other over and over and over again. And yet, their forgiveness and love for each other kept winning out. And for me, that's always been that glimmer of hope in every season. It's like, okay, I'm screwing you over right now. I'm hurting you right now, but
I'll be there when you need me.
Which is kind of what family does. But the thing that I felt this season wasn't so much that they were hurting each other, but that they were each of them were kind of isolated.
They were.
That was what bothered me.
Stories.
Yeah.
And it didn't come together till the finale.
They were living in a box.
I mean, one of our favorite scenes in season 5, which was a tiny scene, but it was when Doreen was about to be released and they grill her to desensitize her. It was such a tiny scene, but we latched onto it as like, this is what I love.
Taking care of each other.
Yes.
And injecting some humor. It was a little bit of a relief. You know, and it just gave them the opportunity to remind us how wonderful they can be with one another and that they really do have one another to count on.
Yeah.
So, and also, I mean, they got rid of so many of them. It became tinier and tinier and tinier, whether it was wonderful with Doreen, who got released, or with Maxine.
I was so scared about that. But the minute I saw that car, I knew it. I said, here comes Nash with Joshie.
Hot boy in a hot car. Not so hot car.
Don't leave the baby in that hot car.
The other who is that constant reminder is Boomer.
Yeah.
I mean, her journey, not only her individual journey, but her journey as a member of the family. She's like the keeper of the flame, man.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, who would have thought it? I mean, total surprise, but it totally makes sense as well, given the character and her experience. But I can't tell you how many times her character made me cry again. The same scenes I've seen a million times, but she keeps making me cry. And it's like, she's got the biggest heart of all of them. And
she does.
I don't know what the show would be like without her.
At this moment.
I can't imagine.
You know, I'm just thinking about that very, very early on in the season when Boomer said something like, everything is changing, I hate when things change. And Doreen says, oh, it would have been boring. And I said, you know, this to me was, at the time, I thought, was a little message from the writers saying, we know how you feel, but, you know, it would have been boring. And here, just trust us. But then I felt, of course, they never lived up to that. But I felt that I'm just being reminded of how Boomer is actually kind of our voice You know, she doesn't. She feels like we feel. She also doesn't want people to leave, and you know. But they, to me, Boomer and her arc, and I'm sure that now watching all of the seasons one after the other, it really was obvious to see how it's one of the best things that Wentworth has done.
Yeah.
And Katrina is so marvelous. Oh my God.
Well, and as Kathy said, Kathy Chambers, when she talked to us, Katrina started as a non-regular cast member, and she just won them over, and they had to make her a regular.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you can't let someone like that go.
No.
Someone that unique.
No.
So now, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so now that you've watched all 5 of them in a row, how does that make you feel? What are you looking forward to? What are your thoughts about season 6 to come?
I don't think my views have changed that much from what I wrote. But to spell it out for everybody, my focus is usually Frankie, but also Vera. I'm really, really interested to see where they're going with her, because she's another character that has evolved so dramatically. Mm-hmm. And watching the last couple episodes again was like she is almost becoming the new protagonist. I mean, she's the hero. She's the hero of this season, really.
She was the hero of this season, I think.
And another thing.
And Will.
Yeah, and Will. But it was interesting. Kaz says something to Will. To get justice, sometimes you have to cross the line. I just wrote it down.
Right.
Because I wanted to remember that. And I found it really interesting how that really says something about a character like Kaz, about a character like Vera and Will, who have such high standards and principles and ethics that for them to cross the line changes everything.
Yes, it's very serious.
Which is also something that we have to look for.
And you can't waste it. That's why you say it changes everything.
Which is why people have also been wondering about what it's going to do to Will.
Exactly. So, but it's the other thing that I thought with that was you can't have them all cross the line, which made Allie's move so vital to give them a way to save Kaz.
Well, but do we actually know what happened to Kaz in the end of the finale?
But she didn't kill Ferguson.
No, I know, but now we're worried about her.
Yes, that is a huge question mark, what happened to Kaz, because she walked in the cell and we never saw her again. But the assumption is, at least for me, is that by Allie stepping up, giving them a way to get Ferguson out, kept Kaz from crossing the line herself.
And I think that when you...
Let me just say that when I think that when she went in the cell and she went over to Ferguson, there was just a bunch of clothes piled up in the bed.
Yes, but so then the question is, wouldn't she have immediately gone to tell somebody? And then the assumption is maybe she went to tell Will, and Will told her, hold on, don't do anything, we have a plan in place.
I could believe that.
Yeah. Now,
she went to Will.
When it comes to Allie and Kaz, by the way, I don't know if you noticed in the finale, watching it again, Kaz, when she tells Allie, tell the Red Right Hand girls not to do anything, it's up to me, and she keeps telling her, B wouldn't want you to do this. I think that also is another thing that made her realize, I need to do something to protect her, to not let her do this. And I think all of these things, helping Frankie, helping Kaz, revenging B, it all kind of came down to say, this is the best plan. And it's worth me staying in prison for, also because then she gets Ferguson out and she doesn't need to worry about, I mean, she does have, 9 years, but still.
Right. Absolutely. And that conversation with Kaz and Will, where Kaz says this about justice, really set up Will's action, because he not suddenly, but it came to the forefront, his responsibility for all that's happened by saving her in the fire. And he took this on himself. And this also reminded me of season 4 with B, and how this time watching it, I realized in especially season 3, she was playing the proper top dog, having her henchwoman do a lot of the work, being sort of responsible for things happening, but not doing a lot of it herself. Being the ringleader, but kind of staying clean, not consciously or emotionally, because she was enacting, making things happen. But in season 4, she did things herself.
Because she was in without parole. There was nothing for her to worry about ever. And
well, that was her case in season 3 too. But she didn't have Maxine anymore because Maxine was ill.
Right.
Boomer was doing her thing, trying to get pregnant, and suddenly, but also I think what she experienced in season 3 had its toll on her, like, being top dog had its toll on Frankie. She didn't like it. She didn't want to have that responsibility anymore. Yeah. And the guilt was weighing down on her. So she then had to step up because she was alone, but also because she took it on herself. This is my responsibility. You look at I forget the girl that came in and was Tasha. And she had to, cut her hair off. She took the step.
She cut her scalp.
Did it herself, which normally she wouldn't have done. But suddenly she's doing these things herself because there is no one else. But it's like
she still has to keep.
She has to
stay in charge. And B was always about taking care of, making sure that it was the greater good,
right, that
she was serving. No matter how bad it had to be for someone else, it was always the greater good. Yes. And I think Kaz was the same way. I don't remember if Frankie was.
No, Frankie was
about power. Frankie was about power, and Joan was about power.
Well, Frankie was about self-preservation.
Right,
is how I would deem her.
Well, the whole drug thing was not really
power gave her self-protection. She didn't want the power for the power. She wanted it for self-protection.
But B was top dog to take care of her people and everybody, of the people who needed taking care of.
Well, because B was a very unique person with very high moral standards.
Yeah, she wasn't a criminal.
No, exactly. She
wasn't a criminal.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. She was an abused woman who.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And also going back to that thing of something Ferguson said to Will, the women, because he's getting her ready to go back into general population, and she's pushing his buttons, and she says they'll do what you can't. Mm-hmm. Because, and it goes back to what she said in the yard when she was on trial. Her view of these women are criminals, and they are.
And she's not.
But don't forget that
she's not. But neither is he. In a way, he's done his share of bad things as humans do. But her point being, they've all crossed the line already, so they will do what needs to be done. Are you capable of doing it yourself?
And that was, by the way, that echoed what Frankie said about her. Frankie to Kaz, when Kaz wanted Frankie to help them take Ferguson down, and she said, she'll do what you're not willing to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
I think that was a huge message in this season, was how far are you willing to go? Frankie said it in different ways, mirroring her own journey. She said it to Doreen. If you have an opportunity to get out, you do everything you can because you have nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. And that's what was fueling her. Mm-hmm. Her escape was, I have nothing to lose. I'm here for life either way.
And speaking of which...
Yes.
The bullshit of Joan, what was that girl's name? Iman, and Joan killing her for no reason, for nothing.
So stupid.
And all of that story about Panisi and all the mystery, and it boils down
it was an excuse to get Frankie back into prison.
Such bullshit. Yeah. And it was a huge chunk of it reduced a huge important chunk of story to just a little pile of poop.
Well, that's what we're saying. The entire season we've been coming up with crazy theories, trying to figure it out, and then it's actually not about that at all. It was about putting Frankie back in prison and getting her somehow involved with Joan.
And having Joan. Joan had no reason to kill this girl. She didn't have anything against Frankie that I can recall in particular. No. Just because she could.
Yeah. But even Frankie kept saying she did it to get back at me. But Jake said it to Joan when he called her on it. You killed him on. And he's like, just to take down Vera.
Right.
And she didn't say a word, which means he was right. But nobody else knew Joan's big picture plan was all about Vera. So Frankie took it on that, it was about her, but it wasn't about her at all.
Yeah, but we kept saying
no justification.
She kept playing her chess game and saying everything's in place, but that was opportunistic. That was never part of her plan.
Exactly. No. Totally opportunistic. Yeah. Totally 100% opportunistic.
Yeah.
That could not have in any way, shape, or form been part of whatever her plan was.
Unless her plan was at some point I'll kill somebody. And then Vera will go down for it. But then she lived to regret it because Channing was far worse for her, as it turns out.
and I love Vera saying, you did your job too well.
Yeah.
Too well. I love that. That was a great
Fuck you.
Yeah.
So now, what are your thoughts on Frankie being out? Would you prefer seeing her in, or would you rather have a whole season of seeing her out?
I'm torn. I'm really torn. But if having her in means another season 5, I want her out. off the show, if that's the case. If they can't give her a proper story, I want her happily ever after, free with Bridget.
Yes, but how is she going to be happily ever after free with Bridget?
If she's
that's what season 6 will.
Well, yeah, she'll clear her name.
Maybe they can move to Vancouver.
I find it hilarious because they said they killed B because they didn't have any more story for her, and yet they gave Frankie this bullshit story. They could have left B to be alive and let Frankie go off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Because B actually had more story to tell and actually I think Frankie had more story to tell, not this story.
She had a better story waiting for her for this season.
Yeah.
Even if they did put her back with a legitimate, innocence.
It could have still been a much better story.
That's a good story to tell. Somebody is accused wrongly.
Yeah.
And
especially somebody who's out on parole, and it's hard to stay out when people constantly think of you as a criminal.
Yeah, there was so much there they could have done with a legitimate innocence,
her story was ultimately
story that they totally dropped the ball.
Her story was ultimately A, to give us Frankie back in prison because they felt she needed to fill the void. B, serving Joan's plot. That was it.
Totally.
Yeah.
But if they are serious about finishing Frankie's story that they started, clearly they had a vision of some kind. They made a big deal about her escape. And the fact that just visually, her running in the streets was so...
That was so great. We loved it. It was like Rocky. It was sort of like, da-da-da-da,
It was totally magnificent. I expect something to come of that.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think Joan's dead?
Oh, that's the big question.
I'm torn on that too, because what I want is what we all want, is that she's dead and we're done. It needs to end.
I agree.
However,
I smell a but.
If they insist on her getting out, finding a way to crawl out. And I don't think anyone's going to help her. I think if she gets out on her own.
Joan, she'll just burst through.
Joan.
She knocked 15 people in the yard around.
If anyone can do it, she can. But I then want them to capitalize if they put us through this season 5 focused on Frankie and Joan, because they were top 2 in the billing,
and they were most of the time consumed was on them,
and it was their show this season. As everybody got their share. Don't get me wrong. Which they
Allie didn't get her share.
Allie didn't get her share. That's true. Though Liz did, Sonia did, Boomer got a nice thing. Doreen Maxine was certainly not did not Allie get her share.
Allie was wasted.
Yeah.
Which gives me hope that she and Kaz and them have a bigger story coming in season 6. I hope they better. I think they need to capitalize on Joan and Frankie being outside. And it's part of, I'm still sort of refining my story that I wrote for your survey, but I can see now Shane being sort of in the middle of something. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying
I don't care if I ever see Shane again as long as I live.
But it's the connection between the two of them. Connection between the two of them. So either he will come under threat of Joan and Frankie will get involved, or what? I don't know. I don't think there's a big enough story there for them to go there. But, if they are going to go there, they might as well properly connect their stories effectively, and not like what they did in season 5, where they had no connection until Iman, and then. But I prefer that she's dead.
Well, if she's alive, I do not. I want her to be killed eventually. The last thing I want to see is her being led back into Wentworth as a prisoner again.
I never want to see her in Wentworth again.
I actually, I would love to see them shoot more story outside. I would love to let
outside.
them.
I mean, I want her to be dead.
No, I'm not
it was
talking
a perfect
about Joan.
death.
I'm not talking about Joan. No, I think that to me, having her see B's picture and then scream no, and then come back, that would be a huge, like a slap in the face to the audience.
They've already slapped us in the face so many times.
I know, but supposedly in order to finally get to that perfect ending, which it was.
Perfect.
So so at this point to say, "Oh, we're not done yet," that would be stupid. But I again, to me, I said it before. I want to see Frankie outside. I want to see that there is a possibility for people to be released, for my favorite characters to be released and still be part of the show. And I would love to see.
She needs to say the redemption story.
Yes, and I love it when they go outside the prison and show us a little bit of how it's like for them out in the world. So
that was very interesting, Frankie trying to stay straight. Yeah. She was already, just by living with Bridget was already a huge mistake.
Yeah. Right.
There's no reason they couldn't have kept their, separate domiciles and
and still had a relationship.
Yeah. I did say domiciles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else you'd like to say or talk about before we run out of time? Because I know that we
have to do a
we
little
chatted a lot.
Yeah. Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Just to put something out there. I know there's this unreasonable, in my opinion, debate between Bally and Frigid. I love them both. They're very different.
Exactly. Yeah, they're very different.
And
I don't think you have to be one of the other.
And anyway,
Mariah and Whitney.
Bally doesn't exist anymore, so it's really ridiculous.
Right. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Frigid is barely alive.
Yes. But just to say that I think particularly this season, but even though we were shortchanged in season 4, what they did give us at the beginning of season 4 and in the first episode of season 5, which I thoroughly appreciated. Yes, it was wrong for them to be living together, but we saw them domesticated.
Yeah, we did.
And
it wasn't very exciting. Oh, you did
I
not?
loved it because it made them real.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest view of them versus Valley is, one, they're two experienced lesbians who came together, in total understanding and appreciation. And, yes, they have their little thing because of the therapist-patient start and a bit of an age thing too, but that just makes their relationship richer in my view.
It was the relationship was more mature.
Mature and complicated and complex.
And Valley was a journey of discovery.
Yeah, Valley was it was
so sweet and very innocent and charming. Yeah. But I find there are scenes between Bridget and Frankie, like on the porch from season 4, which is so moving. It still makes me cry. It's so beautifully played and written. It's so delicate. It's that nuance and subtlety that we love. Mm-hmm. And there's so much love and passion there. They hadn't said I loved you yet, at least on camera. But to me, that was a moment of I love you. Mm-hmm. It was so real. It was so authentic. Mm-hmm. And even in season 5, when they meet in Bridget's office in the second episode, when they still are unsure of what's going on, their instant, connection and I'm scared for you. And there was so much love and passion and commitment. That's what I love about them, is their commitment. And they have that same quality that the family has, which is, I know we bitched about it because, Frankie went above and beyond, but Bridget kept forgiving her and still loving her. There was
until she couldn't
anymore.
Until she
couldn't, right. But she still loved her.
Yes. She came back and helped her.
Always.
Even after she left.
She'll always help her.
She didn't, I will stick to this story. She did not leave because Frankie lied to her. She left because she couldn't handle being separated from her anymore. That's what she said, and that's what I take as truth. Mm-hmm. So
I agree.
I think there is still hope for them.
Well, I think if anything, the finale wanted us to think that there was still hope for them.
Yes, and I want to see that happen. I want to see what this new chapter is with them. I want to see how Frankie deals with this in the right way.
Let's hope.
Not a stupid way, but in the right way. She's got her freedom. That's what she was focused on for 12 weeks. Okay, now what?
Yeah,
exactly. Let's see the truth of her character come out. The person we know her to be, the person she's become after all of these, really long, extensive, complicated, trying journey that she's had. Let's see the true Frankie come to light and wow us.
Okay.
That sounds like a really, really good note.
See you next June.
Next June or April or May, whenever
they decide. Yeah.
But thank you so much again, Sarah, for being such a huge part of Talking Teal, and it's been a joyful ride. Yes. For all its ups and downs.